My name's Alistair Macaulay. This is my partner, Paul Simmons, and we have a design studio in Glasgow called Timorous Beasties. And we established ourselves in 1990, straight from college, Glasgow School of Art, that was, from 1984 to 1888. Yeah. And then Paul went to Royal College for 2 years to do the MA. I went back to Glasgow to do a postgraduate and set up the studio in 1990 in an old converted church in Maryhill in Glasgow.
Which is no longer there.
It's now 72 luxury flats. We were asked by Katrina Brown, curator at the time of the DCA, if we wanted to co-curate a design show at the DCA. The theme of the show was to be how the natural world inspired the inside world, so sort of inside-outside kind of idea.
Well, the outside of the world coming inside. And I guess the idea was sort of to take it from our angle, which is a printed textile angle. That's what we studied at Art College. Although now we're sort of involved with lots of different things. And really, we sort of started off with the idea of taking some old archival pieces, mainly these toiles de jouy, which feature quite a lot in the actual exhibition. The main themes, I guess, is the outside coming inside, but also there's an angle about print techniques, and you'll find, you go through the show, there's lots of different examples of these techniques, whether it's hand block, wood block, copper plate, silk screen, and surface print and roller print. So there's a whole variety there.
I mean, the whole show, I suppose, is hugely biased towards our way of thinking. Like, where sort of our work is being described as being kind of traditional and modern at the same time, and that's why I've combined the two kind of areas. The sort of traditional kind of heritage of what inspires us, I suppose. When you look at these, like, the old textiles, the jacquards and the prints, and then more importantly, as currently as we have developed, our interest in design in general, so it's like the more sort of furniture pieces, the pieces by Front and Studio Yob and Muix, and obviously Michael Sands as well.
We also have a kind of contrast between high tech and low tech, which is quite interesting. You'll see in the show probably some of the best quality digital prints you can get at the moment. And they're sort of up against or being compared to some of the
worst
old,
quality.
some of the oldest sort of block prints, like the Zuber block prints that we have. Also, I guess, like the toiles in their day, they sort of reflected what was happening at the time, almost historically. But we kind of felt that we'd find pieces of design that's kind of happening now that we kind of feel either an affinity with, or we would like to kind of show and reflect. So this is where we have quite a big influence actually by the Dutch, but we also have people like Michael Sands, who's from Germany, and Front as well. Although they work with quite a lot of Dutch designers, they're actually from, I think it's
Netherlands.
No, that's,
although we could be wrong.
Holland. No, it's not. They're not from the Netherlands.
They're from Finland.
Finland. There you go.
There we go. We also have a collection here. A lot of the work that we wanted to get hold of, we couldn't get hold of the original pieces. So, for example, we have this collection of 20 lampshades, which were originally from sample books by Sanderson Wallpapers in the kind of early 70s. Now, this is a really nice thing to show, because everybody who comes in of a certain age has this kind of nostalgic kind of reflection upon these wallpapers. And it's just really interesting to see the way they have used a kind of traditional ideas like all the sort of William Morris pieces, and then recoloured them and restyled some of them to have this kind of real sort of 70s kind of madness about them.
We couldn't get hold of the actual wallpapers themselves because Sanderson actually don't have them. They only have the sample books. Normally in shows I always like to or I like seeing things that are real. But in this case, there wasn't any real things to actually show, so that's why we sort of reproduced them on the insides of lampshades.
Because they've got a real sort of little domestic feel to them as well. The fact that there's a domestic size, then you could almost expect to see them in the living room that you were growing up in. And
then I guess we also have some animations in the show, which again is sort of just showing the kind of sort of more high-tech side to pattern that's being used at the moment. And in those pieces, you can also see ideas about repeat as well, which we often work with when we're designing things. Obviously, we have to print things. We have a small studio where we do actually produce things ourselves, and we have to make repeats going along a 20-metre table to put some of the things into production. And so the animations, I feel, are kind of influenced by pattern, but are also very much involved with how pattern is actually made.
And how it's developed as well. If you look at the way pattern is being manufactured, for example, the fact that it is done as an animation, so that it opens its the vehicle for showing it into many different ways, like obviously through projections, either front projections or back projections, and it's quite an exciting way to see some of these pieces, like Chris Pearson's adaptation of William Morris papers, where he's introduced the animation, brought in all sorts of other imagery from various angles, whether it be like the little sort of jellyfish that float through, or the guys, I think they're on skateboards or on bikes, in amongst all this kind of what you would see as a kind of instantly recognisable and very comforting kind of pattern, and suddenly it's got this real modern resonance to it.
I think imagery is another thing that we're involved with, and often we use sort of slightly unusual imagery in terms of what is the norm in textiles. But actually, certainly some of the old pieces, the old toiles, use all sorts of imagery from people plucking cupids from a tree
and then selling them in a market.
Selling them in a market to stories or allegories of the life of a shepherdess, where she's almost being raped, and certain. It's almost like the Rake's Progress as a Hogarth etching. And yet through to the Studio Hjob, where they've used all these skeletons, what other weird ones have we got? The cuckoo clock obviously is quite
we've also
strange.
got the Mooy horse, when you see which is the light, which was designed by Front, and it's there's actually a series of three you could call them icons in the range, but one of which is a horse with the lampshade on its head. The other one is a life-size pig with a tray perched on its shoulders, and the third one is this little rabbit, which has again a little lampshade on it. Now, the reaction to a lot of people seeing these is quite incredible, because generally people expect to see them as being kind of like tabletop items. They don't expect it to be a full-size horse, and when you see how design has gone through from, say, the 90s, where everything was very minimal and sort of slick, to this total kind of indulgent, almost exotic and grand kind of ideas of, and it's almost so ridiculous, a horse with a lampshade on its head. But when you see the actual piece and see it in situation, it's an absolutely beautiful and fantastic piece.
There's also elements of or ideas about taste. So, for instance, the Sanson wallpapers that were produced in the 70s, we kind of probably maybe now see as being slightly tasteful in terms of the bright colours. But maybe we can sort of reflect and re-look at these things and actually find elements when they are isolated, or those papers are isolated, they can look actually really great. Yet again, Hela Junguras, who's produced the ceramics, you can see that the idea is taken from old figurines that we associate with being in slightly kind of kitsch or bad taste, but it's kind of reversed, and she's produced these amazingly tasteful pieces of ceramic.
It's good. It's like an interpretation of surface pattern and decoration, which in a way, for a period of time, it received a really bad name because of this, because people didn't really know how to use surface decoration appropriately. So now you're seeing a real rebirth in pattern and in craft in itself. The possibilities of things being manufactured in a way which is incredibly intricate and incredibly painstaking, but it's done in such a sensitive and appropriate way, like the Helianguris, you know, almost kind of kitsch ideas of these little animals with little patterns on them, and they're so exquisitely beautiful. It's incredible.
Yeah, that's it.
Can we go?